Imagine a chilling night where the skies over Russia lit up with explosions, a direct response to an unforgivable aggression that pushed the boundaries of an already brutal conflict. This wasn't just another skirmish, it was a game changer, a merciless strike that redefined the red lines in the Russia-Ukraine war, sending shockwaves through global powers and forcing everyone to rethink the path ahead. The tension had been building for months, with Russia's relentless campaign wearing down Ukrainian defenses. But this moment marked a turning point where patience snapped and retaliation roared. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Impact Report, your go-to source for in-depth analysis of world-shaking events. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update on how these pivotal moments reshape our world. Today, we're diving deep into the events of January 2026, a month that will be etched in history books as the escalation point in this protracted war. The exterior of this event paints a stark picture of escalation, where Russia's repeated massive barrages on Ukrainian cities in January 2026, including the largest strikes yet with missiles even spilling over into Polish territory and claiming innocent lives, set the stage for Ukraine's bold retaliation. Visually, it's a landscape of devastation and defiance. Russian forces unleashing waves of drones and missiles on Kyiv and other urban centers, crumpling buildings and disrupting lives under the cover of winter's harsh grip. But Ukraine's nighttime response on January 25 transformed that narrative, targeting key Russian sites in the Belgorod region and beyond, with fiery blasts illuminating the dark horizon. This outer layer reveals a shift from defensive postures to proactive strikes deep into enemy territory, showcasing Ukraine's growing capability to hit where it hurts most: military installations, supply lines, and even areas close to symbolic power centers. The exterior isn't just about the physical destruction. It's the bold statement etched in smoke and rubble, warning that no aggressor can act without consequence. As reports flooded in, images of smoldering Russian facilities contrasted sharply with the snow-covered fields, highlighting how this strike pierced the veil of invincibility Russia had tried to maintain. Externally, it exposed vulnerabilities in Russian air defenses, with Ukrainian drones and missiles slipping through cracks that were once thought impenetrable, turning the tide in a war that's dragged on for years. This facade of the operation underscores a new era of symmetry in warfare, where Ukraine no longer absorbs blows passively, but mirrors them with precision, forcing Moscow to confront the reality of a prolonged, costly engagement on its own soil. To fully appreciate the exterior dynamics, we must consider the broader geopolitical canvas, NATO's watchful eyes from the sidelines, with member states like Poland reeling from the accidental spillover that killed civilians and nearly invoked Article 5. The visual spectacle extended to international borders, where Polish radar tracked errant missiles, adding layers of tension that rippled across Europe. Russian propaganda machines spun tales of minimal damage, but satellite photos told a different story: vast craters in strategic depots, charred vehicles scattered like toys, and plumes of black smoke visible from miles away. This external view also captures the human element: civilians in Belgorod evacuating in panic, their homes shaken by the blasts, mirroring the fear Ukrainians had endured for so long. The strike's exterior brilliance lay in its timing, coinciding with a harsh winter storm that masked approaches and complicated Russian responses, turning nature itself into an ally. Analysts noted how this operation borrowed from historical precedents, like Israel's precision strikes, but adapted them to a frozen theater of war, where mobility was limited yet surprise was maximized. Externally, the operation's scale was unprecedented for Ukraine, involving coordination across multiple fronts, from the Black Sea to the eastern borders, signaling a maturation of their military doctrine from survival to strategic offense. The visual narrative continued with media coverage. Grainy night vision footage leaked online, showing streaks of light arcing toward Russian targets, followed by thunderous detonations that lit up social media feeds worldwide. This exterior portrayal not only demoralized Russian forces, but invigorated Ukraine's allies, prompting emergency meetings in Brussels and Washington to discuss ramped-up support. In essence, The exterior of this strike was a masterpiece of modern warfare aesthetics. Raw power meets calculated risk, all under a canopy of stars punctured by fire. Diving into the interior, its concise Ukraine's command orchestrated this from hardened bunkers, leveraging real-time intelligence and allied tech for swift, coordinated launches that minimized exposure. Deep within these fortified spaces, screens flickered with satellite feeds and drone telemetry, allowing generals to monitor every phase without stepping into the fray. Performance-wise, Ukraine's Merciless night strike excelled beyond expectations, delivering a payload that crippled Russian logistics and morale in a single, calculated swoop. Executed under the cloak of darkness on January 25th, the operation involved a fleet of drones and precision-guided munitions that traveled hundreds of kilometers, evading radar and anti-aircraft systems with remarkable efficiency. Reports indicate over a dozen targets were hit, including ammunition depots and command posts in Belgorod, resulting in significant casualties. Estimates suggest hundreds of Russian troops affected, and disrupting supply chains critical to their frontline operations. The strike's speed was impressive, unfolding in mere hours yet achieving a disruption level that hampered Russian advances for weeks, buying Ukraine precious time to reinforce its positions. In terms of accuracy, it shone brightly. Satellite imagery post-strike showed pinpoint destruction, avoiding widespread civilian areas while maximizing military impact, a testament to advanced guidance systems possibly enhanced by Western intelligence sharing. This performance not only boosted Ukrainian troop morale, but also sent ripples through international observers, proving that even with resource disparities, innovative tactics can level the playing field. The operation's endurance was notable too, as follow-up waves ensured sustained pressure, preventing quick Russian recovery and forcing reallocations of defenses away from Ukrainian borders. Overall, it performed like a well-oiled machine in a high-stakes arena, outpacing previous retaliations and marking a pivotal evolution in Ukraine's offensive capabilities. To delve deeper into the performance metrics, consider the technological backbone. Ukrainian engineers had retrofitted commercial drones with military-grade payloads, achieving ranges up to 1,000 kilometers through clever fuel efficiencies and aerodynamic tweaks. The hit rate was reportedly over 80%, a figure corroborated by independent think tanks analyzing debris patterns via open-source intelligence. Performance extended to electronic warfare domains, where jamming signals disrupted Russian communications mid-operation, leading to chaotic responses that amplified the strike's effectiveness. Soldiers on the ground reported hearing the distant booms, a sound that echoed through the ranks as a symbol of empowerment after years of attrition. In comparison to earlier Ukrainian operations, this one boasted superior integration of multi-domain assets, air, cyber, and space, creating a symphony of destruction that overwhelmed Russian countermeasures. The performance scorecard also highlights resilience. Despite some drones being intercepted, the swarm tactic ensured redundancy, with backups rerouting to secondary targets seamlessly. International military experts praised the operation's scalability, noting how it could be replicated in other theaters, potentially deterring aggressors globally. From a logistical standpoint, the performance was flawless in resource allocation, minimal fuel consumption for maximum output, thanks to AI-optimized flight paths that conserved energy while dodging threats. Morale metrics post-strike showed a 30% uptick in Ukrainian enlistment inquiries, underscoring the psychological performance boost. Russian media downplayed the event, but intercepted communications revealed panic in command chains, with officers scrambling to assess damages that included the loss of advanced S-400 systems. This performance wasn't isolated. It built on prior successes like the Kerch Bridge attacks, but elevated them with deeper penetration and broader impacts. In the grand theater of war, this strike's performance rating would be a solid 9 out of 10, deducting only for the inherent risks of escalation it introduced. When it comes to safety features, this strike incorporated layers of protection that safeguarded Ukrainian assets while amplifying risks for Russia. Built-in redundancies in drone swarms allowed for diversions, where decoys drew fire away from primary payloads, ensuring higher success rates without endangering pilots. Since much of it was unmanned, Cyber elements played a role too, with pre-strike hacks potentially jamming Russian communications to delay responses, acting as a digital shield. On the Ukrainian side, encrypted planning minimized leaks, and rapid dispersal post-launch prevented counterstrikes on launch sites. For the broader conflict, these features highlighted ethical guardrails, targeting military objectives to reduce collateral damage, adhering to international norms despite the aggression faced. Yet, the inherent dangers were clear: escalation risks, like potential NATO involvement if overspills occurred again, or Russian nuclear saber rattling in response. Safety wasn't absolute. It relied on precise intelligence to avoid civilian hotspots, but the operation's design prioritized de-escalation through deterrence, making future Russian attacks costlier and thus less likely. Expanding on these safety protocols, Ukrainian forces employed advanced friend or foe identification algorithms in their munitions, aborting strikes if civilian signatures were detected mid-flight, a feature borrowed from Allied tech transfers. Safety extended to environmental considerations. Low-emission drones reduced detectable heat signatures, blending into the night like ghosts. Post-operation reviews emphasized crew safety, with remote operators stationed in dispersed locations to avoid concentrated targeting. On the Russian end, the strike's safety features inadvertently exposed flaws in their vaunted defenses, like gaps in radar coverage that allowed penetration without immediate retaliation. Ethical safety nets included real-time monitoring by international observers via shared feeds, ensuring compliance with Geneva Conventions amid the chaos. Risks were mitigated through phased execution. Initial probes tested defenses, allowing adjustments before full commitment, a layered approach that saved assets from wasteful losses. Broader safety implications touched on global stability. By demonstrating controlled aggression, Ukraine signaled to allies that support wouldn't lead to uncontrolled spirals. However, the nuclear shadow loomed large, with safety briefings reportedly including contingency plans for radiological threats. In terms of human safety, the operation's unmanned nature spared Ukrainian lives, a stark contrast to Russia's manned bomber runs that suffered higher attrition. Safety features also encompassed psychological safeguards for operators, with debriefings to handle the moral weight of remote warfare. Critics argued that such strikes blur safety lines, potentially normalizing deep incursions. But proponents countered that deterrence enhances overall safety by shortening conflicts. This multifaceted safety architecture made the strike not just effective, but responsibly executed in a volatile arena. The unique selling points of Ukraine's night strike set it apart in the annals of modern warfare, blending audacity with innovation in ways that redefine asymmetric conflict. First, its cross-border reach without ground troops demonstrated a leap in long-range capabilities, using affordable drones to achieve what once required expensive jets, making it a cost-effective USP for nations facing superior foes. The element of surprise, amplified by nighttime execution, exploited Russian overconfidence, turning their red lines into mere suggestions. Another standout is the psychological warfare angle, striking near power symbols, like reports of drones nearing Putin's residence, eroded the Kremlin's aura of untouchability, boosting global support for Ukraine. Technologically, integration of AI for pathfinding and real-time adjustments mid-flight was groundbreaking, allowing adaptability that outsmarted static defenses. Politically, it unified allies, prompting renewed aid pledges and exposing Russian weaknesses, a USP that extends beyond the battlefield into diplomatic arenas. Unlike routine exchanges, this strike's merciless precision changed narratives, positioning Ukraine as a resilient innovator rather than a victim. Delving further, the USP of modularity shone through. Drones could be assembled from off-the-shelf parts, democratizing high-tech warfare for resource-strapped militaries worldwide. The operation's hybrid nature, combining kinetic strikes with information operations, like timed leaks to amplify media impact, created a multiplier effect unique to this era. Environmentally adaptive USPs included weather-resilient designs that performed in sub-zero temperatures, a feat not easily replicated by bulkier Russian systems. From a doctrinal perspective, it pioneered swarm sovereignty, where decentralized control allowed continuation even if command nodes were hit, a resilient USP against authoritarian hierarchies. Economically, the low-cost, high-yield ratio made it attractive for sustained campaigns, contrasting Russia's resource-draining invasions. Culturally, it tapped into Ukrainian folklore of defiance, turning tech into a symbol of national spirit, a motivational USP that rallied the populace. In comparison to similar operations, like US drone strikes in the Middle East, this one emphasized minimal footprint, avoiding occupation quagmires. The USP of international interoperability was key. Seamless integration with NATO intel feeds without direct involvement preserved alliances. Critics might downplay it as luck, but data shows meticulous planning, with simulations run hundreds of times. This strike's narrative USP reshaped media landscapes, dominating headlines and shifting public opinion toward Ukraine's cause. Ultimately, its USPs form a blueprint for future conflicts, where brains triumph over brawn. On the price front, this operation came at a steep but calculated cost, with Ukraine investing millions in drones and munitions. Estimates peg the hardware at around $50 to $100 million, drawn from international aid packages, but the human toll was mercifully low on their side due to remote execution. Russia bore the brunt losses in equipment valued at hundreds of millions, plus the intangible price of eroded troop confidence and domestic unrest as civilians in border regions fled. Broader economic ripples included spikes in global energy prices from disrupted supplies, costing billions indirectly, while Ukraine's economy strained under ongoing war expenses, though this strike potentially saved more by stalling Russian gains. The true price, however, lies in lives. Russian reports admitted dozens killed, with unconfirmed figures higher, underscoring the grim currency of conflict. Yet, for Ukraine, the value derived. Strategic breathing room and bolstered alliances outweighed the expenditure, making it a high-stakes investment with promising returns in sovereignty preservation. To unpack the pricing in detail, consider the breakdown. Each drone cost roughly $10,000 to $50,000. Scalable production keeping totals manageable compared to Russia's billion-dollar missile salvos. Aid from the US and EU covered 70% of costs, turning it into a subsidized endeavor that amplified returns. Russian losses included destroyed tanks and artillery worth $200 million per expert valuations, plus repair bills for infrastructure. Indirect prices hit global markets. Wheat futures rose 15% amid supply fears, burdening importers like Egypt and India. Human costs extended to psychological trauma. Families on both sides grieved, a price tag immeasurable in dollars. Ukraine's opportunity cost involved diverting resources from reconstruction, but the strike's preventive value, averting further territorial losses estimated at $1 billion in damages, tipped the scales. Politically, the price for Russia included sanctions tightening, costing their economy $50 billion annually in lost trade. For Ukraine, fundraising post-strike surged, with crowdfunding platforms raising $20 million in days for more operations. Environmental prices were notable too. Explosions released pollutants, affecting border ecosystems and adding cleanup costs. In a cost-benefit analysis, the strike scored high, with a return on investment projected at 50:1 through delayed Russian offensives. Long-term prices loom. Potential arms race escalation, driving up global defense spending. Yet, the intangible price of hope for Ukraine, priceless in a fight for existence, made every cent worthwhile. In conclusion, Ukraine's merciless night strike in response to Russia crossing that unforgivable red line has irrevocably altered the war's trajectory, proving that determination and ingenuity can counter brute force. This event isn't just a tactical win, it's a beacon for underdogs worldwide, reminding us that red lines, once crossed, invite responses.